gonna get there this week. Or in a couple weeks. All right, good morning, everybody. It's 11:30. We'll go ahead and get started with the pre-commission agenda. I don't have a president's report today. Are there any general housekeeping items or discussion of the agenda? Okay, not seeing any, then we'll just hand it over to Director Head for the director's report.
Thank you, Madam President, Commission. It's a pleasure. Welcome to May. Here we are, getting ready for summer and all the fun that will bring. But before we begin today, we want to wish a happy birthday to two of our very own who had birthdays this last weekend. We do have a delicious pie. We'll see if it stands up to Commissioner Gold's expertise on this, but we have a pie available for enjoyment during the break. But here at the district, we are very focused on continuing to build with our partners and have just a few items that we want to share with you today. This last week, Commissioner or President Gold and I had the opportunity to attend the Boise Metro Chamber Leadership Conference in Sun Valley. The topic was education and workforce development. Lots of great things learned, and just wanted to share a few of those things. First and foremost, I learned that Commissioner President Gold is really good at trivia, and she beat me as a local resident in Treasure Valley trivia. So just so you know, don't go up against her. But even more, there were lots of wonderful presentations. All of the public schools were represented there. And one of the regular things they were saying is, we're open for business. Come work with us. We want to work with you, and we want to give our students practical experience. We also want to know what you need. And so I think that there's good opportunity there for us to work with them and to make sure that we are continuing to build. One of the things that we definitely have challenges when it comes to personnel is making sure that we have, that we're able to get engineers and people with and planners and people with the right experience that we are looking for. And so we're looking at some good opportunities, and there were some good ideas that came out of that. We heard from some of the major development and major business partners in the area. One of the things that I thought was made my heart stop just a little bit is when they were telling us that right now with the development out at Micron, they're only about 20 to 30% full in the staffing that they need. So where we're already experiencing some challenges with electricians, with other things from that, knowing that there's a lot more to go and their needs are going to be a lot bigger, that's a big deal, right? They're concerned. Micron talked about their concerns with the engineers that they will need long-term and the technicians. And so we see that there's going to be competition, definitely, when it comes to finding the right people. And we want to be prepared for that and anticipate that, and thought that those were some good conversations. And so it was a great conference, a couple days up there, and I feel like they put together a really good presentation to hear and to see where people are. One of the things that they continued to talk about, and we heard from some of the presentations, is the need for housing, right? We can educate people, but if they can't afford to live here, that's a big deal as well. And so not necessarily a bunch of solutions that came out of it, but a number of thoughts and things that we can consider how we can be a participant in that.
Commissioner Nelson?
Yeah, Director Head, how many apprentices or interns does the district have over a year?
7, 8.
Saying?
Okay.
Yeah.
We have about 10 interns right now, and they're in a variety of different departments. We are pretty um, generous in that way. We want to, if there's something that someone needs, or we see kind of a balance between a business case and the providing that opportunity for our interns to have. But we always have a good amount of them going through the district.
Madam President, I just think that this may be a story to be told there for other employers of how we do it. I mean, sometimes, I know first time I had to hire an intern at a previous employer, no one had ever done it before, and you just have to, have to, just have to get started and do it. And here we've had a program, I think, for many, many years. So anyway, just thought that there might be an opportunity to tell that story to other employers.
Yeah, thank you. So our team has been out this week in the north end preparing for the Spear project. If you recall what that is, we're going to do some targeted outreach in the neighborhoods to designate certain roads to be swept on certain days. This really will help us to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of our sweeping program. And so we were out this week, and that's getting ready to get started, where we'll do north-south roads on one day and east-west roads on a different day. And so people can move and place their vehicles off the road, allowing us to get closer to the curb and as through that process. And then we're gonna do some measurement to see, are we getting more materials? Are we able to get more out of this and be more effective so that we can consider making that a more permanent activity. We also had some permanent bike counters installed. This project was a grant we received through Compass and a partnership with Compass to install, I believe it's up to 6 additional permanent bike counters, just giving us good information as far as how the facilities are being used out there. We had our first tour at the Traffic Operations Center by an elementary school this morning. And so one of the rooms there, as we shared with you all, is going to be our education center. And so Bob was in there entertaining everybody. You know, I think Bob's the most famous part of that tour. And so we had the opportunity to have that room set up and that first tour this morning.
Madam President?
Commissioner Pickering?
Yeah, thanks for highlighting that because I literally got some text messages last night about some of their kiddos being part of this tour, and they were just so impressed with the facility and Bob and just everything. So yeah, kudos
Wonderful.
to him and the team.
Excellent, thank you. Just a couple, we're trying to highlight what special events may be impacting traffic this week, and just want, so you're aware, we do have spring commencement for BSU. This is affecting some of our interns. Actually, one of the things that you recently had the pleasure to hear from Allie, one of our interns in communications. Well, she did a good job and she proved herself, and we made her job permanent here. So we found an FTE in order to do that. And so we're pretty excited that we can move her right into a permanent position, which is going to be great in helping us with the rollout of ACHD Connect. Just an update on a few projects that we've talked about in the past and just wanted to share with you the progress. 16th and Washington. This is location where we did have a fatality here. We're in the process of installing raised crossings, some bulb outs. This is where the signal is going to be replaced by rectangular rapid flashing beacons. And so you see some mast arms still there, but the signal heads are down at this point in time. Those will be pulled down when we move over to that side. We'll be shifting to the west side of the road on around the 16th of this month with expectation that will be done by July. But it's a great project. We're excited to see how that works in that environment, and we can see the good progress that the team is doing there. Also wanted to update you on our 8th Street Extension project. This is where we're have a road that's been struggling for maintenance and been pretty expensive to maintain for a number of years as we've tried different treatments. We found a good solution. Our crews have been out there doing this work. And so it's being done by forces, making it all the more affordable for us to improve this for the community. This week, we'll be done with the grading and the laying down of gravel. We've advertised to the community that we'll be paving it or doing the seal portion later this month. But we're pretty excited to do this. The crews worked really hard to get good drainage set up, get the drainage to work properly to go towards that center. They have all those check dams that have been built so that it can handle the type of water and that will come down that road. So just a couple things coming up. Trying to make sure that you're all aware. Tonight is the Hillcrest Neighborhood Association, and Commissioner Nelson is planning to be at that. Tomorrow we have our all-staff and celebration at the Traffic Operations Center at 10 a.m. We're excited to be there. McIlvain has also provided some lunch for everyone. And so we're excited to enjoy that part of the celebration as well and show off that wonderful facility. Tomorrow night is a Boise District 6 Town Hall. Commissioner Gold or President Gold will be there at that. VRT will be doing a ribbon cutting at State and 18th on the 13th. This was a signal that they rebuilt for us, as well as doing improvements for a bus stop at that location, as well as you can see there. The State of the City is on May 15th. We do have tickets from the city, and so if you're interested, please let us know and we'll make sure you have those tickets. And that is the kind of the items that are on the agenda for the next few weeks. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Madam President.
Commissioner Pickering?
Another thing to put on your radar, on Monday at the VRT Executive Board meeting, Elaine Clegg shared that a contract had gone through. They're going to be putting in electric charging stations in the Main Street station. So Main Street station will be closed for most of the summer. So that will obviously impact traffic because there's going to be kind of loading and unloading on the street around Main Street Station. So just flagging that for the team to kind of coordinate what that looks like for those impacts. It'll start in June. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioner Nelson?
Yeah, I just was, just thought the communications teams are doing just an awesome job. And evidence of that was on social media where an individual had just come back to town and was uncertain about I think it was a slurry project. And the responses piled on and said, we got all these notices. What more could they do? And it was just clear that it all worked and it worked well. So I just thought I'd thank them personally. I thought it brought a smile to my face.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for the really great update, Director. With that, we'll be at ease until noon.
Pie, yeah. Have you ever had a bad pie?
All right, good afternoon, all. It's now 12 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Thanks to everyone joining us in person and online, and please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first item is to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a commissioner or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. All consent agenda items are commission action items unless noted. I don't think we have any requests to change it, so is there a motion?
Madam President,
Commissioner McKinney.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the regular agenda. First item is Resolution 2441, Surplus Property Auction Request for Approval. And Joe Schoen, welcome.
Thank you, Madam President, Commissioners. For the record, Joe Schoen, Fleet Manager. So today we have a public hearing for the declaration of surplus equipment. The resolution finding certain personal property of the Ada County Highway District is no longer useful to the district or necessary for its use, and declaring such personal property to be surplus property with values determined to be in excess of $5,000, and authorizing the sale of the subject personal property to the general public at public auction. All such personal property is listed in Exhibit A. So at this moment, the public hearing to discuss 29 pieces of equipment, miscellaneous tools, and furniture with an expected value of $304,400. Staff recommends the commission approves the resolution 2441, declaring that surplus property listed on Exhibit A is no longer necessary or useful at ACHD and to be sold by Music Auction, Nampa, Idaho on June 4th. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
This is a public hearing, right? Is that-
Madam President,
Commissioner McKinney.
may I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Joe, I don't know if this is the question for you or if this is maybe our other senior staff members ought to chime in on this, but over the last year or two, we've had several public auctions where we have disposed of, surplus property. A lot of this has been in connection with purchasing the new headquarters building and remodeling and so forth. And speaking just for myself, though I think some others on the commission will agree, the results of those auctions have been a bit disappointing. And at the same time, I think to myself of my own experience and other individuals who are able to sell used property fairly successfully and often at reasonably good prices via eBay or Craigslist or other such, internet sales options. Can we as an agency use some of those options, or are we required to do it by this public auction route? Because I'm wondering, like I say, the results have been disappointing, and I'm wondering if there's another way to potentially get better results from the sale of this sort of equipment.
And just before you address that, Steve, this was not listed as a public hearing on the agenda, so if I need to open a public hearing, I will do that.
Yeah, Madam President, Commissioners, I'm trying to sort out in my mind which question to answer first. Let me hit this. My preference would have been, Commissioners, to have this listed and included in the presentation today, just because we would like to be fully transparent about what piece of equipment and also as advertising to those that may be interested. Second thing I'd like to say is that just a reminder that when we do auction off, that no employees or any of their family members can participate in that auction. We've had problems in the past where people show up, and we just don't want to have those kind of situations occur. Now, Commissioner McKinney, as to your question, the statute's pretty clear that we have to go out for a public auction. It doesn't give us the latitude. If you just read and you can imagine when they drafted the statute, they weren't thinking about all the different forms of modern day technology to do that. That's something that we could explore amending with the legislature to change that law. That's one of those statutes that probably has been on the books for about 100 years without any changes. So I think we're on the right path. And, you know, I suppose the commission can say that if we don't get a certain level that we can bring it back. But generally, I think most of the equipment that you have here are trucks, big, heavier equipment. There's a few items that I think were left over from the Meeker remodel. I don't think they represent a significant dollar amount that we should really be that concerned about holding up the process.
Well, and if I may, you know, what's interesting to me, Steve, is that, you know, when you put things for sale on eBay, for example, it's an auction format. It's not a standard auction, but it's an online auction. And is there any way that the statute can be interpreted to allow that? Or has that already been looked at by other agencies or what have you?
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, I'll have to hit the books on that.
Okay, because I would be interested to know, because like I say, the results have been disappointing, and I wonder if there's a better way to, you know, get value for the district.
No, that's something worth looking at.
Thank you.
Commissioner Goldthorpe.
Yes, Madam Chairman, I would, as a reminder, when we have gone to auctions like this, where we have had heavy equipment, trucks and the like, we have never, at least in the 10+ years I've been here, never been disappointed with the results of the auction. We get a lot of money, far more than you'd get trading it in and things like that. People love our equipment that are in the market for it.
Madam President and Commissioner Goldthorpe, you're right. One of the reasons why is that we're probably one of the few owners of that property that absolutely keep those
Takes care of
maintained at every level.
Yeah.
And so they know that, and so we're able to get a higher price.
Okay, so Steve, just in terms of procedure, then this is the public hearing and I need to open the public hearing.
Well, I guess the question is do you want to defer this a week so that you can have this, was this attached?
Yeah.
Oh, it's attached? Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't see that. Then strike that.
Okay.
But yes, you can open up the public hearing and
So I
away
will
we go.
open the public hearing. Okay. All right, so then, do we have any other questions for Joe then? And if none, then is there anybody here who would like to speak on this in person or online? All right, seeing none, then we will close the public hearing.
Madam President,
Yeah, Commissioner Goldthorpe.
I would make a motion that we approve Resolution 2441, which is the surplus property auction.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I would just like to say that perhaps because of how well that Joe cleans up, I should probably start scoring some of our presenters for that. No, just kidding. Appreciate it.
All right, is there any, Commissioner Nielsen?
I made a note to, maybe on June 11th, have the director include an update in his director's report.
They always do.
Yeah.
Great. Yep. All right, no other discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, that moves us to item 2 on the regular agenda, Alworth Basin 294, Vacation and Exchange, Public Hearing and Adoption of Resolution Number 2442. It's another public hearing. I will go ahead and open that. And welcome, Carrie.
Madam President, Commissioners, for the record, Carrie Niesel, Real Estate Management Specialist with ACHD. And this is a public hearing, a decision briefing presentation on the proposed Alworth Basin Vacation and Exchange. Okay, so Ada County is developing a public park on the Expo, Idaho property, and it's in place of the former LeBois racetrack and facilities. Ada County Highway District has a stormwater drainage basin, number 294, just adjacent to the proposed park along North Alworth Street. Now, the county is proposing to move the basin, incorporate it within the park's redevelopment, granting ACHD a perpetual easement for the new site in exchange for that current basin located there at Alworth. Okay, here's a vicinity map that just shows the proposed vacation exchange. It's located on Ada County property within the new park at Expo, Idaho, and surrounded by Garden City there in the black boundary line. Okay, so here we can see the park up close, Ada County Highway District Stormwater Basin. The proposed vacation site is highlighted there in green, and the new location the county is proposing for the basin is shown in red, approximately 750 feet to the north and adjacent to East Remington Street. Okay, so here are the land details for the exchange. ACHD's parcels approximately 2.88 acres and will be exchanged for 1.96 acres. And now, in addition to the exchange of land, the county is also proposing to construct the new basin at its cost and will be involved in the future maintenance of the site. And so Idaho code states that no charge shall be imposed on a landowner who originally dedicated the parcel for use as public right-of-way. And back in 2003, the Alworth Basin was obtained from the county by quit claim deed, so therefore this is a no-cost transaction. I also wanted to mention too that ACHD environmental engineering staff did participate in the design plan of the new basin. Okay, well, the county and staff have completed all the statute requirements for vacating the public right-of-way parcel, but it is the commission that determines if it's in the public's interest to vacate or not. So here are the alternatives that the commission can take at this time. You can accept the proposal, adopt and sign resolution 2442, authorizing the vacation and exchange, or you can deny the request and not accept resolution 2442. With that, this concludes the presentation, and I'll stand for questions.
Questions for Carrie?
Madam President?
Commissioner Pickering?
Yep, thank you. Thank you, Carrie. Do you mind pulling up the map again?
Oh, yes.
Thank you. I think I have in terms of the vacation, do you know what they plan to do? Because obviously there's a lot of plans that they're working through. I've got some concerns about the roadway right there and just some safety concerns with kind of the weirdness of the angle, just a little bit west. So I'd like to know kind of what's the county's plans for that parcel if we were to grant a vacation.
Gotcha. So the county is here today to speak to this and has
Oh,
a
great.
presentation that may answer a few more questions.
That would be great. I'm happy to hold for
Okay.
their presentation.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Madam
Commissioner
President?
McKinney?
Yeah, Carrie, just going back a minute ago to your presentation, I just want to make sure I heard right, and I believe I read this, but I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. We're vacating parcel 294, and as shown on this illustration, in exchange for the additional parcel. Is it that did you say that the construction of the new drainage basin will be done by Ada County as part of their construction of the park itself? Or is it ACHD that will be responsible for building the new drainage basin?
Yeah, Madam President and Commissioner McKinney, yes, Ada County will be the ones who are constructing the site, not Ada County Highway District.
Okay, all right. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Carrie. I don't think we have any other questions for you. Invite the county to come on up and present on this item.
President Gold, Commissioners, for the record, Josh Brown, Senior Project Manager for Ada County. I am personally involved with a park, managing it currently there very often. So hopefully I can answer some of these questions as we go along. First and foremost, Carrie kind of breezed by it, but we've been working with the engineering team here at ACHD since before May of 2023. As a matter of fact, I can remember clearly Erica coming out onto site and walking around that track with us and giving us ideas, helping us kind of understand what the stormwater basin does in the area that it serves. So I can't thank the ACHD team enough for really being partners from day one and helping us with the design of the basin and understanding the area that's being served. With that being said, the basin that you see right there, the triangle, as she said, is approximately 2.88 acres. We submitted back in November of 2023, through our original master facility plan, this illustration or this map that had a new stormwater basin of approximately 1.4 acres in the middle of the park. Erica and her team gave us some very clear direction on why that wasn't going to work. So we quickly set up some meetings with them to kind of understand a little better what they wanted, and we revised the plan. So what you see before you here is the new location, and Carrie also laid that out in her drawing. Along Remington Street, there'll be that 1.96 acre stormwater basin. Once again, to reiterate, we will be taking on the cost of constructing this 100%, including upgrading and relocating a lot of the stormwater lines that go down Remington Street. That's going to be fenced in, beautiful park amenity. So we are designing it with the intent that it's going to be part of a destination park here in Garden City. This drawing basically indicates the existing basin that's going to be vacated. There are some drainage lines that attach to that. Those drainage lines will go away. The drainage will then be rerouted up Remington Street. And that has already been submitted to Ada County Highway District. The engineering team has approved it. And as you can see in this next drawing, all of that water will be rerouted to the new stormwater basin. And this is completely designed to treat the water, and if there's any overflow, it'll go into the lowland area completely clean and ready to be returned back to the wetlands there. And once again, Mike and his team has reviewed that and it is approved. And that is it. That's all I have for slides. So with that, I stand for questions.
Madam President.
Sure.
Thank you. Could you go back to the image of the revised plan? Yeah, that's great. So could you tell me a little bit more about so it's like you've got a baseball field, and what are the little blue triangle rectangles? Are those like?
Madam President, Commissioners, Commissioner Pinkring,
Mhm.
that is a preliminary design. We
Okay.
submitted that through the master facility planning with the intent to just help everyone understand that this is a quasi recreational use property. No solid design has been adapted yet. As you may have heard through the news agencies and through our public notices, Boise Pro Soccer, we've entered an agreement with them. It's a long-term agreement, and they have a 10-year plan to develop the entire property, with the first part of that plan being putting in a professional soccer pitch right there below the stadium. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like, and I'm assured that there's going to be another planning process that we go through to make sure that that's all approved, and the local jurisdictions will have an opportunity to review that as well.
I got several follow-up questions, Commissioner Bolton. So pin on that last point, because that's really helpful to know. So if my memory serves me correctly, where we're putting the stormwater basin facility, that is where originally there was a parking lot, is that correct?
Wow, you're really jogging my memory here. So we've gone through several iterations of design. The original location, I'm sorry, the new location for the stormwater basin was never intended to be a parking lot. As you see, there's a number 7 down below the new stormwater basin, and that's where the parking lot has always been contemplated.
Oh, there it is, right
Yeah.
there. So and that hasn't changed in size or anything, that's just still there?
It's been adjusted for some green space. We had to
Okay.
adjust it a little bit to make sure that we got the turning radiuses needed to allow the emergency vehicles to get to the end of Remington and be able to turn back around. But to your point, the location of it has not changed.
Great. And do you remember off the top of your head how many spaces are in that parking lot?
Wow, so it's 167 total between the two. I will have to go back and look. I think 84, if I'm not mistaken,
Okay.
was in that one.
Because I think,
Once again, that's a guess.
oh no, that's, if you can get us the confirmed, that's a smaller detail. I think what I'm trying to understand, and I'm really excited about the investment. This is in my district, so I'm really excited about the investment going in, the work that you're doing as the county to, reinvigorate Garden City and make this a destination. I think what I'm really curious and hoping to have that enhanced collaboration, which is how can we make sure that folks get there safely? And so, there's a lot of, older infrastructure and making sure that the county is aware of, how we can work together on making sure that certain parts of the connections to this park are part of the plan as well. So if they're not part of, these master plans, we can have a conversation about our 5-year work plan, making sure that there's certain projects that are going to come in alignment with the improvements that are coming on. So specifically that, and could you go back to one of the maps where they have like the street names?
Let's see, that would be.
Or maybe,
This one possibly?
I think you got to go one a little bit more back.
It's Remington Street there.
Even Carrie's slide.
Maybe,
Yeah,
yeah, maybe it was Carrie's. Anyway,
Yeah.
maybe go back to the original one that you had. Just, there you go. Perfect. So you can see like where we're vacating that land right there. And then just west of that in that little weird other like triangle area, there's this the road that goes to that parking lot that is adjacent to these fields, kind of comes in. There's a weird curve. The sight lines are terrible. And so adding additional trees or landscaping, which is obviously very important with heightened traffic, it's already a problem area. So would love to know specifically when is the right time for us to engage on those other projects that are adjacent, but also directly influenced by this project.
Madam President, Commissioner Pickering, that's a great question. I want to be clear, we've gone through a traffic study. So we've engaged with Kittleson and Associates. We went through a lengthy study in that area. Part of our design is to pull bicycle traffic off of Remington. We're creating a multi-use pathway that goes along Remington Street. As you may or may not know, the green belt kind of dead ends at 52nd Street. And a lot of users come down 52nd Street, engage in that intersection
Yes.
that you're specifically talking about, get on Remington Street. Once again, we're pulling them off Remington Street and putting them on the side in a safe multi-use pathway. But the traffic study we received was just really for phase 1 and kind of, quasi-recreational use, future use for the rest of the park. I can't speak to what our partners are going to have to go through specifically. But once again, I just want to reiterate that there will be some plans that will likely be submitted, but we won't be part of that process as much as they will, because as ground leasee, they'll be responsible for working with all the local jurisdictions.
Well, then maybe I'll just say, I'd like to have some type of communication from our staff around when those windows of time are up for us, because, once we miss that window, it takes a really long time to come back around to talk about these issues. And I appreciate the multi-use path piece, but my biggest concern is actually car traffic, because it's challenging. Folks do not stop at that stop sign. They'll just treat it as a yield. So again, with like even more car traffic, I mean, yeah, so I think it's not just all, obviously all users are important, but I think from a car perspective, it's actually not safe for cars either. As it's designed currently and adding, and especially as it relates to this property that we're vacating, kind of makes it harder for us to actually evaluate what options we have to maybe adjust that roadway. So that's kind of my point. So it kind of limits us a little bit, which is why the enhanced collaboration with you all to think about how we treat this intersection differently is going to be so important. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, Commissioner Nielsen.
Hi, Josh.
Hi, how are
Hey.
you?
Where is this project relative to zoning approval by Garden State?
This is unincorporated Ada County,
Right, oh,
Madam
okay.
President.
Or through the Ada County Planning and Zoning Commission? or-
So unincorporated Ada County, it goes through Ada County Development Services.
Uh-huh,
The master site plan has been approved. That was back in 2023.
okay.
And I can provide to the board all the facts and findings and conclusion of
that's
law if needed. And the permits have been approved. And once again, as you saw, ACHD approved the stormwater basin design and permits as well.
Okay, thanks.
And
that's
they've
helpful.
issued the permit.
Any other questions? All right, thanks, Josh.
You.
Are there any members of the public in person or online who want to speak on this item? All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing. And commissioners,
Madam President,
Commissioner McKinney.
I move that we approve resolution number 2442, the Alworth Basin 294 vacation and exchange.
I'll second that.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Madam President.
Commissioner Pickering.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for the county for coming and presenting. This is really helpful to know where you guys are in the process and that you're working so diligently with our team. I just want to reinforce my last point. I'll support this because I'm trusting that we'll have the opportunity to weigh in on how we can make sure traffic moves safely and connecting throughout the park and the properties adjacent to the county's property. So just want to flag that for our staff too. Like, it's going to be really important to enhance what collaboration we're already doing, but just make it stronger in terms of applying that to the network outside of this park.
Thanks, Commissioner Pickering. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, that moves us to item number 3, which is an interagency cooperative agreement with Ada County for property exchange and stormwater facility maintenance at the park at Expo, Idaho. Welcome.
Hello, President Gold, Commissioners. For the record, it's Renee Vogelpol, Staff Attorney. And what we have before you today is consideration of the interagency cooperative agreement for maintenance of the stormwater site we were just discussing. I'm sure you have the interagency agreement in your packet. He's been up here, made the presentation, but just a couple of highlights. They are constructing it at their cost. They'll maintain for a year, and then we will maintain what's inside the fence, and they will maintain what's outside the fence. We have language in the agreement stating that we're going to be working with each other cooperatively because how the new stormwater basin, there is a drive on 2 portions, but not on the other 2 portions. So we're just going to work with each other when it comes to maintenance or needed maintenance with the pipes going in and pipes going out. I'll stand for any further questions that you have.
Are there any questions? All right, thank you, Renee.
Thank you.
Madam President,
Commissioner Pickering.
I'll move to adopt the request for approval for the interagency cooperative agreement with Ada County for property exchange and stormwater facility maintenance at the park at Expo, Idaho.
I'll second that.
Okay, great, we've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Keeping you on your toes. Second.
Okay, seeing no opposed, the motion carries. That moves us to discussion items. Is there anybody in person, this is public communications, anybody in person or online who would like to address the commission? All right, seeing none, meeting is adjourned. Now we are on to the post-commission agenda. We have a couple of work sessions. First up is the FY 26-27 budget presentation. Welcome, Christine.
Good afternoon, Commission President, Commissioners. This is Christine. This is Christine. Here to present and talk about the FY 26-27 budget that we're kicking off and getting ready to get going on. So currently, as looking at the revenue projections, we're looking at $182 million for FY 26. This does include a property tax certification, highway distribution account, impact fees. I did include also the TECM funding with the new language that was approved through state statute in the most recent legislative session, which will be $8.1 million of TECM funding. So that comes through as sales tax funding. It comes through as comes through the highway distribution account. So it's $45 million for the locals, of which we get 18%. That's how we got the 8.1 million. And through reading the language, we're estimating that to last for 3 years, that additional funding. Now, as we continue to go through the budget, we of course also have additional revenue available that the district has received through state legislature. Highway 16 strategic initiative funds, focusing on those USTIC corridor projects, looking at what the current balance is, which is about 32 million. At the end of Q2, we are projecting a beginning balance of FY 26 of 21 million. Now we do anticipate between 26 and 27 to fully deplete that $36 million that we received in strategic initiative funding. And then in 2025 legislative session, the legislature also approved some additional strategic type initiative funding. We're anticipating to receive that full amount of 19.8 million in FY July, not FY.
Commissioner Pickering?
Madam President, thank you. Christine, could you, I think I'm a little confused on the 36 million. So that's going to be spent through this next fiscal year or
So
this current fiscal year?
Madam President, Commissioner Pickering, I apologize for the confusion. So we started with 36 million and then we have continued to spend it. My projection is that at the beginning of FY 26, we'll have $21 million left in there. Of that, it's all programmed to then be spent. We have to track that. It is a restricted revenue source, so we have to track it separately in our financials. So I'm planning that we're going to spend about another $10 million this year on projects that are underway. That may fluctuate depending on project schedules and stuff. The big one being the big USTIC corridor project that's under construction right now. Does that answer your question?
No, not quite.
I
So is it going to be, I mean, you said another 10 million. So does that mean that we would still likely have some left over at the end of fiscal year 26? Or do you think it's going to be spent down? Because I think that's what you said originally. I think that's what I'm trying to make sure is the case. So,
Madam President, Commissioner Pickering, I apologize for the confusion. At the end of FY 25, I'm programming that there will be 21 million available. Between FY 26 and FY 27, all of the
Okay.
money will be planned and programmed and anticipated to be spent. Again, depending on
Sure.
schedules and how bids come in and stuff, but we do anticipate that to be fully expended by end of FY 27.
great. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then again, on that 19.8 million, our plan is to program it for the Linder-Chinden Estate to complete the USTIC joint project with Nampa and then Franklin Black Cat to McDermott. Property tax certification revenue assumptions. We are assuming 3% allowable increase of $1.5 million. The 1% maintenance and operational expense allowable out of our foregone balance, and the 3% capital project specific expense that I'll talk about on the next slide. Also, as well, we are assuming the new construction at about $1 million per year after that calculation. The current foregone balance after FY 25 was or will be 10.5 million. So the capital project specific expenses, this is related to that 3% amount we can take from our foregone for one-time funding for a project. In FY '25, the commission elected to take it for State and Pierce Park. We try to select projects or propose projects that are CIP related, so there's impact fees, and then utilizing this additional funding from the foregone balance to supplement those dollars with that. This is one time. It comes off of our total balance of our foregone, and actually it gets its own levy rate. So it looks, it's part of a new process that we're learning as we go through the ever-changing property tax certification rules. But that would be what the staff would recommend. We utilize that property tax certification amount on, specific to capital projects. And in summary, we have just regular revenue sources. There's nothing, we have not seen any major long-term revenue sources that have come. As you know, maintenance and operation needs continue to grow. We do have continued capital facilities that are going that we're utilizing reserves for. And again, on the strategic initiative funding, we're very grateful for that from the state legislature. It's just not something we can project long-term. As with the 19.8 million, it's not something that we projected last year, so we get it in and then we try and program it as quickly as possible. But when we look out over the 5 and 20-year horizon, it's difficult for us to project any of those because they tend to come up just during the legislative sessions. Next steps, May 14th, Christy Inselman will be before you for public and partner agency review. My goal is the early July, you'll have a packet of the FY '26-27 budget balanced for your review. July 9th and 16th, we'll go over those. We're doing Neighborhoods in the Know on July 24th. It was really successful and well attended last year, presenting the budget and integrated 5-year work plan stuff. And then August 27th is published as our public hearing for budget adoption. And I will stand for questions.
Questions? All right, thanks, Christine.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, next up is our second work session, Development Services Initiatives for 2025 presentation, and welcome, Christy.
Thank you, Madam President. Commissioners, for the record, Christy Little, Development Services Manager. I wanted to brief you today on our initiatives in development services for 2025. But first, I wanted to take a few minutes to highlight my team. We're not before you very often, which is a good thing for all of us. But I think it's really important just to give you a high-level idea of what our team does. Our department is very unique, and we're looking at some fee structure changes this year. So I think it's important to give you the high-level overview. I'll do that real fast, and I've just got one slide on what our initiatives are for the year. So who are we? Well, Development Services, we're the second largest department in the Highway District, second to maintenance. My team is a strong 55, and we're made up of 6 different sections. So we have the planning review section, and this is kind of where the development process really starts. We have a small group of planners led by Mindy Wallace and a traffic engineer, and we're reacting and receiving development applications from the land use agencies. We spend a lot of time attending pre-application meetings with the development community and the land use agencies, and really try to get in front of any issues or making sure we're coordinating on improvements. So these are applications for subdivisions, conditional use permits, design reviews, specific area plans, annexations, and rezones. In some years, we've had upwards of 1,000 development applications, but in the last fiscal year, we had 700. From there, we have our development review section led by Michael Alexander, Commissioner Nielsen. You brought up interns. We hired Michael 10 years ago as an intern, and we've had him ever since. So Michael leads a group of engineering technicians, and they're really the second step in the development process. So once the development has been entitled, their architects and engineers do the civil and site design. Staff reports that the planners have prepared with conditions. The development review team is making sure that all of those conditions are satisfied, but they're also reviewing, the technical aspects of the streets, the new streets and subdivisions, sidewalks, bridges, storm drain. We get a lot of right-of-way dedication through this process. And then also, we've really successfully had a lot of developer cooperative projects that have come through this section, where we've partnered with the development community to get projects, capital projects constructed sooner than what would happen in our own program. This team gets a lot of resubmittals. You know, they do a lot of QA, QC for the engineering community, but they've in the last fiscal year, they had over 1,000 submittals that required review. From there, we go to our impact fee group. Our impact fee team does a wide variety of things, but most importantly, the administration of our CIP and impact fee ordinance. Of course, this is where new growth pays for itself through impact fees. In the last year, we had about $24 million collected in impact fee revenue. And this team does all of the impact fee assessments for those fees. Additionally, not related to impact fees, but important in this group, is that we utilize a software called Track It in development services. And that literally tracks everything from beginning to end. When we get a development application in, even in the pre-planning stages, all the way through the plan review, the impact fees, permitting, inspection, it's all in one place. The other really great thing about Track It is that it allows our partner agencies to collect impact fees for us, so the development community doesn't have to go from agency to agency to get some of those permits in place. Next, we have our permitting team led by Leslie Wardlaw. All of the work that occurs in our right-of-way, with the exception of capital projects permits, has to be permitted, and traffic control has to be approved through this group. So we have technicians and analysts, and we don't issue a permit until we've approved a temporary traffic control plan. And that we typically get 4,000 to 5,000 submissions each year for this group to review. This group has 5 people in it. We also have our bridge group led by Dennis Meredith. His team is responsible for the biannual review of ACHD bridges with a span of under 20 feet. So I know we've been talking a lot about the big bridges. So we, every year, are inspecting half of the bridges in our inventory. This team is very innovative. You've heard about the RC cars. But every year we continue to improve on our inspection. So we have very high quality video, which just allows us to compare year to year how a bridge or culvert is looking, and if we need to make some improvements sooner than we had anticipated, for example. They're also responsible for the review of the design and construction of bridges with new development. And that means we even send our team to the precast plants, where we're inspecting how the components are even being manufactured. And then this group is also responsible for our fleet of drones at the district. So not only do we use them for inspection, but we assist with annual inventory at our maintenance yards, like for gravel pits, piles of 3/4. We use them for capital projects just to track progress, and even our chip seal process and other processes. And then finally, we have our large inspection team, which is made up of 4 subsections. Not all of these are specific to development, but they're all housed within us. So we have our fiber team, and they are just simply working with the fiber contractors and providers. The way that construction happens requires a lot of personal attention from permitting through inspection. We have 2 ADA inspectors. These inspectors don't just serve development services, but they're a resource for everyone in the district, including work that our maintenance team does or capital projects. They're focusing on accessibility in the work zones. We have our subdivision inspectors. They are keeping an eye on new streets that are being constructed, to make sure that they not only meet the technical specifications, they're being built to those specifications before we agree to take over maintenance for those roadways. And then we have our zone inspectors, and they literally cover everything else in the district. So some of their work is related to development, like frontage improvements. Maybe there's curb gutter and sidewalk, but a lot of their work is the utility providers that are working in our right of way. So that's who we are. We've got a really great team, and I'm really proud of all of the work that they do. So we are, through all of those processes, very busy, and we all have, planners only have a short amount of time to respond to a land use agency for a development application. The engineering techs have to get plans turned around. Permit techs have to keep things moving. But we do have a couple of big projects on our plate for this year. So one of them is already in process, and you're familiar with it. Of course, that's the update to the CIP and impact fee ordinance in conjunction with our planning department. So we hope to come to you in the fall for adoption. But the other two that we have going on, our development policy manual is made up of two sections, section 7100 and 7200. These sections went through a major overhaul 6 to 7 years ago. And then 2 years ago, we had the pathway policy come through, which we spent a lot of time on and which has been really successful. But we do have some just minor cleanup and edits, some of it just from the reorganization even, and responding or referencing departments and divisions. So just some minor cleanups, which we don't anticipate any issues with. But the one area that my team has really focused on the last couple of years is the need for a hillside policy. And we do have a hillside policy in our manual, and it is one paragraph. And we've found through the course of the development as the development of our foothills continues, we have a real need to get some more information before we start allowing roadways to be constructed. So, Boise City and Ada County have hillside ordinances. We assumed that some of the information that would be beneficial to us is included in those ordinances, like, historical springs, soils and materials. And all of that information isn't necessarily included in those ordinances. So we're developing a policy that will address information that we need up front before we say, yes, ACHD is going to approve a public road in these conditions. That's the first piece. The second piece of the hillside policy is to really open up the conversation on what roads will we accept in the foothills. Right now, our policy just says, if you build a road to ACHD standards, we'll accept it and we'll maintain it. We've had some developments come through in rural Ada County that have been, a half-mile road for 11 lots. And it's a steep grade, and we have to go out in the winter and plow it. And that's the conversation that we're also going to have with this policy, is making sure that we're, as an agency, we're making the best decisions for the public. And then finally, last year, our legal team hired a consultant to review development services fees. So we do charge fees for most all of our services. And it's been quite a while since we've had a really comprehensive update to that. We're the only department in the highway district that charges fees for our services. And we just want to make sure that our fees reflect the amount of work that's being produced. And so the consultant did an analysis, which included looking at, working, how many hours were spent on certain types of activities, and we'll be coming to you with a proposal for those updates.
Madam President,
Commissioner Pickering.
I had two questions, Christy. Excuse me. I really appreciate you and the team taking initiative to talk about some of the updates that might need to happen. Because you see it day in and day out where some of those holes are. But on the hillside policy, you referenced the city of Boise and Ada County not having some of those elements in those policies. Have you talked to them about updating some of those policies? Because I think some of the challenges we've seen is, we require one thing, but then the land use partner requires another thing. So has there been conversations with them about including those elements as well? And if not, how can we make sure that there is that kind of alignment?
Madam President, Commissioner Pickering, That's actually the basis for our
Okay.
policy, is working with Boise City's Hillside Ordinance. As we get through to a first draft, we will be meeting with all of the land use agencies in addition to the development community to talk about those things. We want to avoid duplication of
Right.
requirements for the development community. And so we see it more as making sure that we're getting all of the information up front at the
Gotcha.
beginning. And so it really shouldn't be too much more than what the development community is already being expected to provide.
Great.
We
That's
just want to,
really helpful.
we just want to formalize it for our agency.
Got it. And then that would be shared with the rest of the park.
Correct.
That's fabulous. That's great. And then on the DVS fee study, I think one thing that I've talked to a lot of folks in the development community about is they see how hard you and the team work. So I think really curious to see when that kicks off and when we should expect to see results. But in that study, will it also include, is a part of the equation with this study that, we evaluate as commissioners? Is it like, will this study and potentially like a fee increase or something, would that translate to more staff so that we can better address some of those other needs? I'm wondering if that's getting a little too out of ahead, but I'm wondering if that's part of the fee study conversation. Does it connect to staffing and output?
Madam President, Commissioner Pickering, it will. This first phase, it probably will not. So our next steps, good segue, will be that so here we are. I just wanted to make you aware of what we're working on. Step one, this summer we'll come to you in a work session, and that work session will have red line drafts of our initial take on the hillside policy and cleanups to the development policy. We'll also provide you with the impact fee study proposal, and what my team is currently working on is the consultant said, you're currently charging $500 for this task, but you should really be charging $5,000 for this task. There are some examples of that. And right now my team is working through, are the assumptions that went into that calculation correct? Is that just more of a one-off? So we'll be providing you with the consultant's recommendations, but then also what we feel are more reasonable, just based on our working knowledge. So after we've come to you in the first work session, we will go out in our standard public comment period, but really that will be engaging land use agencies and the development and engineering community. And we want to make sure they have adequate time. We're not in a rush to get anything through, but we want to make sure that they've got adequate time to comment. After we've heard from our stakeholders, we'll come back to you in another work session to review their comments and any other proposed edits based on what we've heard. If necessary, and probably very likely, we'll go out to the stakeholder group again. And then if necessary, come back for a third work session. Our goal for all of the hillside policy, all of the other policy updates, and the fee structure, our goal is to have an adoption hearing in December. So with that, I will stand for questions.
Thank you, Christy. Thanks for all the information and for highlighting your team and all of the work that you all do. I do have a question. When we were working through the traffic calming policy, there was some discussion about kind of implementing some of the things through the development policy to kind of ensure that those conditions aren't being replicated in new development. Is that something that you all have talked about in this new development update?
Madam President, that's certainly, we want to make sure we've got some old references to various policies in other departments. And so we do intend to incorporate some of those recently adopted policies, although associated with another department. We want to make sure that it's clear that those are also relative to development.
Thank you. Do you have Commissioner Nielsen?
Oh, he had
Oh,
his hand up first.
Mr. Goldberg.
Just a comment, I guess I'm probably the only one that remembers the last time we went through all of this. And there were very specific relationships shown between staffing, additional staffing, the fee increases and exactly how everything was going to get paid for so that the rest of the budget wasn't impacted. And so just so the rest of you know, I understand that that's how the process worked before, and I'm sure it's going to work that way again, because if no one else is worried about development paying for itself in this county, I know that Christie is.
Commissioner Nelson.
Yeah, two comments. For the fee study, I would hope we'd look at the software license costs, because that's a pretty big cost for a lot of jurisdictions. So, and as much as some of that can be defensively recaptured, that would be helpful, I would think. And then on the hillside, oh, I feel old. So I remember working on that at Ada County, because it had been kind of embedded in the subdivision ordinance. And so people were arguing that if it wasn't a subdivision, it didn't apply. So we moved it and made it an overlay district. And a lot of the hillside ordinances, there wasn't a lot to go in the area at the time. I remember, of all places, Cincinnati, Ohio had a really well-regarded hillside. If you've ever been to Cincinnati, it's a very hilly place. But a lot of those application or additional application requirements are engineering studies. And so as you're working with the jurisdictions, it's really their engineers or contract engineers. There's that whole protocol of engineers reviewing other engineers' work to be sensitive to. And I'm not confident that a lot of the cities understand that, the smaller places. And there may be an opportunity for some cooperative efforts in that regard, and some standardization of the specific engineering reports, or expanding what's required so it takes care of the district's needs as well. But I think some of us have worked in local jurisdictions, just let ACHD do their thing and just focused on their immediate needs for the development review. So I think it's a great effort. So look forward to reading it. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Thanks
thank
very
you.
much, Christy. All right, that's all out here. We have an executive session and we'll see everybody next week.